Mark was extremely wealthy and life smiled on him. The only thing he had no luck in was love. Many women only came after him for his money. He decided to hide this from now on so that a woman would hopefully fall for him as a person. He met Sarah not much later. He was head over heels in love. Mark started to wonder when it would be a good time to tell her his secret. But once he plucked up the courage and spoke up, he got a reaction he never saw coming. If only he had never told her his secret. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. This showed that he hadn't been truthful about himself and his life. Would he lie about other things if he had lied about this? Sarah's anxiety increased. What if this double life he withheld from her wasn't only his money but also something else? She decided she needed a bit of space, telling Mark she was busy with work. It had been a lie, but a little white lie so she could gather her thoughts. She looked him up and found out more about him and even his parents. Maybe this had been the reason she hadn't met his parents yet. But before we start, smash the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. Though Mark never insinuated to anyone that he was poor, he did advertise himself to have a modest life. It had made him seem like a typical guy when Sarah first met him. Sarah lived in a quaint little apartment with the comforting smell of baked goods and fresh flowers. When Mark knocked on the door 3 hours after their exchange through text, he was soon greeted by the rich aroma of the pie. She had no idea yet of what Mark kept out of her sight. He had been nervous as he didn't want to arrive at her home empty-handed, and he had gone to the first florist he had come across and got a small but sweet bouquet of flowers. Sarah noticed the new feel of his home. "Have you been living here long?" she asked. Mark hesitated for a short moment. "Not long, moved in a few months ago," he replied, not daring to look into her eyes. She nodded, accepting his answer as the truth as she looked around at where he supposedly lived. It would be a night where they would only get to know each other more. Dinner had finished and a glass of red wine was in Sarah and Mark's hands as they were talking about what they were looking for in a relationship. Mark told her about his wish to find something like his parents. Sarah smiled at this, finding it commendable. But then she said something about her own wants and needs that made Mark pale. "Whatever it is, you can always talk to me." She offered him a reassuring smile. Mark's heart raced. Would this be the moment he risked it all? He decided he would just open his mouth and let the words tumble out. "My mom is actually not my real mother," Mark blurted out, which was the truth. He took a deep breath before he continued. "I keep talking about her and my dad's love, but it was the one I was brought up with. My mom died when I was 1 year old. Sarah, her ebro, raised at this before she smiled. Mark, I would never hate you for a secret like that. However, thank you for telling me." She had no clue about the secrets he had. Mark's eyes shone with nostalgia. Dad and Diana met during a work conference. It wasn't the usual fairy tale. They were both adults with pasts and responsibilities, but love, it works mysteriously. He paused, taking a moment. They would spend hours talking, laughing, sharing dreams. Their bond was genuine, not just a replacement for something lost. They got married within a year of meeting. It was truly a marriage for love. As weeks turned into months, Mark and Sarah's bond grew undeniable. They explored hidden bookstores, dined in quaint eateries, and laughed through weekend hikes. Mark, usually reserved, found himself sharing memories and hopes with Sarah, while she revealed dreams of traveling the world and making a difference. But with every sunset, they watched together, and every stolen kiss, a nagging voice echoed in Mark's mind. He had yet to reveal the full extent of his wealth to Sarah. While his affluence was no secret in certain circles, he'd kept it hidden from her, fearing she'd see him differently. The bond that once seemed unbreakable now had fissures. Their once joyous relationship was shadowed by this perplexing enigma. Mark's consistently guarded demeanor and carefully crafted tales added layers to the strain. The distance between them grew noticeably, and the air turned dense with unsaid words and secrets. Sarah's patience wore thin. Unable to curb her instincts, she began a discreet yet thorough search for truth. The evenings they spent together felt like a maze, with Sarah trying to discern meaning from the intricacies of Mark's demeanor. No longer content with subtly probing, Sarah took bolder steps. She visited places he'd mentioned offhand, checking his story's veracity. Every discrepancy, every mismatched detail fueled her determination. Sarah's brow furrowed, her heart raced as she scanned the embossed letters on the card. Mark's first name was correct, but the surname? It wasn't the one she knew him by. Confusion clouded her thoughts. In the quiet of her room, Sarah spread out all the evidence she'd gathered. Every other clue, every mismatched name, every unexplained absence of Mark now felt like pieces of a giant jigsaw puzzle. Sunlight streamed into Mark's living room, casting elongated shadows that seemed to mirror the stretched tension between the couple. "What is this, Mark?" Sarah asked, holding up the black card, her voice trembling with a mix of anxiety and resolve. Mark's eyes widened in surprise, and for a split second, Sarah thought she saw fear. The weight of the moment pressed on them, waiting for the dam of secrets to break. Catching his breath, Mark's gaze flitted between the card and Sarah's expectant eyes. "I found it a week ago outside a cafe," he began, his voice laced with urgency. "I've been trying to locate the owner, but I didn't know how to explain it to you without raising suspicions." He reached out, trying to convey sincerity, but Sarah couldn't help but notice his unease, the slight tremble in his fingers. Mark sighed, a weight visibly lifting as he began to speak. "In the past, my wealth attracted the wrong kind of attention. People befriended me for benefits, and relationships were more about luxury than love. I wanted someone to love me for who I am, not what I have." His voice broke. "With you, Sarah, I wanted a fresh start, free from the burdens of my past." Mark's voice quivered with emotion. "Being wealthy isn't just about the luxury and comfort," he began. "It's also a magnet for envy, deceit, and insincerity. Every relationship and every gesture gets clouded by doubt. Is it genuine or just for the money? Hiding my wealth was a way to breathe, to be just." "Mark." Sarah listened, her heart torn between anger and empathy. The weight of her decision bore down on her. Sarah realized that while the foundation had cracks, the structure they'd built was strong. Taking a deep breath, she penned down a letter to Mark. Pouring out her feelings, fears, and hopes, she ended it with a choice that would shape both their futures. Sarah stood outside Mark's door, clutching the letter she'd penned. Taking a deep breath, she knocked. Mark, looking slightly disheveled, opened it. Their eyes locked, conveying a myriad of emotions. "I think we need to talk," she began, her voice quivering yet resolute. Mark nodded, letting her in. They sat opposite each other, bracing for the pivotal conversation that lay ahead. Both Mark and Sarah learned that true love isn't about perfection but understanding. They envisioned a future filled with joy, adventures, challenges, and growth together. With each passing day, they became more intertwined, building a life based on mutual trust and respect. Their story wasn't just about love conquering challenges, it was a testament to their commitment and the brightness of the days that lay ahead.